Madam President, I ask unanimous consent the quorum be dispensed with.
The Democratic leader.
Madam President,
Without objection.
may we have order, please?
The Senate will be in order. The Democratic leader.
Well, Madam President, it's now several weeks since the President asked our troops to leave a critical sector in northern Iraq, in northern Syria, and subsequently, lots of things happened, including at least 100 and probably more ISIS prisoners escaping, an uncertainty as to who is guarding the prisons where ISIS prisoners are kept, and a whole strategy as to how to continue the fight against ISIS. ISIS is not vanquished. They are weakened because of the great... Madam President.
Order in the chamber. Please take your conversations outside. The Democratic
ISIS
leader.
is weakened but not vanquished. And we all know that ISIS can come back. We all know that a small group, thousands of miles away, can do untold damage in our homeland. And yet, we still have no plan that we've heard from the administration on how we're dealing with ISIS. How are we dealing with the prisoners who escaped? How are we dealing with the prisoners who are still incarcerated? And how are we dealing with ISIS overall? This is one of the greatest security threats America faces. And I would hope that we could pass this proposal, which simply demands that the administration report to Congress on what their plan is to deal with ISIS. It's that simple. That's the immediate danger. I know my friend, the senator from Florida, wants to talk about what happened in the past. We can argue that all day long. But the immediate danger is ISIS. The ISIS prisoners who've escaped, the ISIS prisoners who are incarcerated, the ISIS members who still are around. And we don't have a strategy. And it's one of the greatest failings foreign policy, not only of this administration, but of any administration. A resolution passed the House a while ago. It has laid fallow here. And all we are asking here in this legislation is very simple, and that is to report on the strategy to secure the enduring defeat of the Islamic State. I hope we will not hear objection. I don't see how anyone could object when security of America is at risk, when ISIS is still a danger. Every one of us could come up with an amendment to make it better. We know we won't get it done if that happens. So I hope we can move this forward, and then we can debate other issues that are not directly dispositive here, because we have an immediate crisis and we need a report. So I would ask, as if in legislative session, I ask unanimous consent the Senate proceed to the immediate consideration of Calendar 281 S. 2755, a bill to require a report on the plan to secure the enduring defeat of the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, and that the bill be considered, read a third time, and passed, and the motion to reconsider be considered, made, and laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate.
Is there objection?
Madam President.
The senator from Florida.
Reserving the right to object, I want to thank the Democratic leader for his concerns about the defeat of ISIS. If there's one thing I hope we can all agree on, is that Turkey is not our ally or friend right now. Turkey's invasion of Syria is benefiting ISIS, Iran, and Russia, and hurting our great ally, Israel. The United States must stand up for our partners, the Kurds who helped us fight ISIS. I'm hopeful that the ceasefire will last and keep American soldiers and our partners, the Kurds, safe. Nobody wants our men and women in uniform involved in unnecessary, extended military conflicts. Bringing our troops home is a goal we all share. And in order to achieve that goal, we need to have a fuller understanding of the crisis in Syria and what got us there, with the hope that our troops can finally come home. Also agree that the President should always be clear with Congress on where all U.S. troops are located and the purpose of their deployment. Unfortunately, my colleague's proposal would produce a report that only tells a small part of the story. In the name of transparency and a fuller understanding of how we got here, I'm proposing a modification to my colleague's bill to require a report that includes information on President Obama's plan for Syria. We didn't get here overnight. The Democrat leader knows that. It took us 5 years to get here. So I think we all would like to see what the strategy or lack of strategy was from the last administration that put us in this position today. Let's get all the facts on the table so lawmakers here in Congress and Americans all across the country can have all the information we need to keep Americans and our allies safe. Reserving the right to object. Therefore, I ask that the Democratic leader modify his request to include my amendment, which is at the desk. I further ask that the amendment be considered and agreed to, the bill as amended considered read a third time and passed, and that the motions to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Will the Democratic leader so modify his request?
Madam President, this is a diversion. We can all debate history. Maybe Bush was to blame. Maybe Obama was to blame. Who knows? Maybe Harry Truman was to blame when they set up CENTO. That is something we can debate at a later time. We have an immediate crisis. We need a report. And our Republican colleagues keep finding ways so they can object so the president doesn't have to answer. That is wrong. It risks the security of America and is not what we should be doing. So I do object and now would urge us to pass the amendment without the modification, which is still as valid as it was a few minutes ago.
Objection is heard on the modification. Is there objection to the original request?
Madam President.
The senator from Florida.
Reserving the right to object, I am disappointed in yet another political stunt from the Democratic leader. It's clear that this is nothing but a political attack on the president. President Trump's goal is to bring American troops home and keep our partners, the Kurds, safe and our ally Israel secure. The Democratic leader is requesting information from President Trump, but refuses to join me in asking for information about the sequence of events and the strategy under President Obama that led us to this point. It's sad, but it's not disappointing. But it's not surprising. It's just another charade in a long list of political games. Americans deserve a safe Israel and a safe Syria. So I stand today to object.
Madam President.
The Democratic leader.
Madam President, if we're worried about an attack, it's not on this president or a previous president. That is the political stunt here, I would say to my friend in Florida. He knows what he's doing. He's trying to stop this from happening. The attack we're worried about is an attack by ISIS on the United States. And whether you're Democrat, Republican, liberal, or conservative, the country needs a plan. All the diversion, all of the games will not prevent the American people from seeing that we need that, and it's our job as senators to push the administration to do it. And so I would hope that we could pass this amendment without the proposal, diversionary, partisan, made by the senator from Florida. I ask that we move the amendment. He objected.
Objection was heard.
I am sorry that we haven't been able to move the amendment, Madam President. It's so wrong for the safety of this country.
The clerk will report the next nomination.
Nomination, the Judiciary, Jennifer Philpott Wilson of Pennsylvania to be United States District Judge for the Middle District of Pennsylvania.